What's up, comic book fans? Pete here from Comic Books Transformed, where me and my good friend Brian over there discuss comics that have been adapted into streaming shows and movies. Today, we are continuing our discussion of Andor Season 2, and now we're covering episodes 4, 5, and 6, one of our very favorite shows. We just finished a review of that's not my other channel, The Last of Us, episode 3, so go check that out too. But Brian, have they ever shown the Force or talked about the Force in Andor?
Nope.
Yeah.
Not one.
Right.
I was thinking about this earlier. Like, what is the bare minimum required viewing to watch and enjoy this show?
Oh, that's a really interesting question.
Like, bare minimum.
Mm-hmm. So what have you had to see in Star Wars to enjoy the show?
Yeah, to watch as little as possible, but get the most out of it, sort of.
Mm-hmm. That is a really, really smart question, because there's many things that are referenced in this from all different Star Wars things, like the prequels, the sequels. It's all in this.
Yeah.
What was your answer to that question?
My answer is just A New Hope. I don't think you even need to see Rogue One. I think it's just A New Hope. I think that gives you enough information on the general vibe of what's going on in the galaxy, and that gives you the least amount of homework for the maximum amount of enjoyment. Because I was thinking, like, it would be a little hard to watch this without any context whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You probably still could, but like, I think you need that bare minimum of, like, evil empire, rebellion, all this kind of stuff. And I don't think you necessarily need to watch Rogue One, because really, in that sense, all you're really getting is the character of Andor.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think the only other person that's shown up from the movies itself have been Saw Gerrera and Mon Mothma.
Mm-hmm. You are correct. Yeah. And what blows my mind about that is the actress that plays Mon Mothma in this show is the Mon Mothma that's in, like, I believe, Revenge of the Sith. And I think you just, like, see her in passing. I don't think she even, like, has lines in Revenge of the Sith, but it's the same actress.
Yeah. No, I've been curious to I know they put it like was it 20th anniversary screening of it?
Came out in 2005, so 20.
Yeah, 20th anniversary. Yeah, they put it out as like that back in theaters briefly, I guess. I was almost considering watching.
Yeah.
But I guess I could watch it at home, you know?
Yeah, Disney Plus, man. We pay for it for a reason.
Yeah.
But I know there's a scene in episode 3 that gets cut out that has, like, Mon Mothma and Bail Organa and Padme, and they're all kind of conspiring together.
Yep.
And then, but I think that scene got cut out. But I really, really love your question. What I was going to say to that is, I feel like you have to see at least the original trilogy. And I think the more Star Wars you see, the more you can appreciate this show. But what's really interesting about your question, and this is something I was thinking about this week, is that this show both shows you how tough life is under the Empire, just in itself. But then you have this pre-existing knowledge of how powerful the Empire is just based on the original trilogy. Like, they have Darth Vader and the Emperor in this world, even though we never see Darth Vader and the Emperor on this show.
Yeah, have they even referenced Vader? I mean, they've referenced the Emperor several times.
Yeah, especially in these past episodes, they say the Emperor a lot. But yes. I don't think they've ever said Vader once. And one of the things that's been really fun about this season is that it has that director Krennic guy, and they're, like, fleshing him out and making him more interesting too.
Yeah. I have a random question about you. I think Ben Mendelsohn is a great actor, but does it ever throw you off that he's, like, the only Imperial guy without a British accent?
Yes. So I love Ben Mendelsohn. I've probably said this in other videos that we've done, but he's one of mine and Sherry's favorite actors currently. And we really loved him in this HBO show called The Outsider, which is a Stephen King novel that they adapted. He was on the show called Bloodline, which has a really great first season. The second season is pretty good, but he's really great on that.
Invasion.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Is that like I was watching Andor in bed last night because I was cramming all these shows in this week for us, right?
Yeah,
And I'm
isn't
watching.
it really a testament to how great the show is that you're willing to watch 3 episodes of a show with like a span of 24 hours?
But that's the thing, Brian. This show is like so fucking good, and like I kind of want to show Sherry because I think that if she watched it, if she sat through it, she'd be like, this is not like Star Wars. This is something different. This is so good. And I'm in bed. I got these goofy headphones on, and I like turn my phone to be like, look, it's Ben Mendelsohn. Look, and she just kind of gets annoyed at me because she's like, oh, they're wasting him in this kind of thing. Like he's just in a thankless role, a small role on this kind of Star Wars thing. And I'm like, Sherry, if you only knew how fucking good this show is.
Yeah, it's getting to the point where this is becoming the pinnacle of Star Wars, period, for me.
Exactly.
Like, I really feel that way, that I would put this above everything else.
Ditto. And that's the thing too, is that like I have no doubt in my mind that there are people that watch this show and they're like, oh my God, this is so fucking boring. Who are those characters? Like, I don't even know who they are. Who cares? Like, there's no action. I'm sure that happens every episode.
Yep. Yeah, 100%.
Because, like, one of the main things of this arc, and you said you wanted to do pairings and stuff, we have Mon Mothma's cousin, and we have, I don't remember their fucking names at all, but there's the two women.
Cinta. Yeah.
Cinta, go ahead.
Belsartha and Cinta.
Okay, so Cinta is the one that was like from Doctor Who, and she was the one that was hurt. Okay, so all right, first question. She said that she had an accident. Do you think that she purposely crashed that transport to kill the guy that was connected to Mon Mothma, and that's the accident? Or do you think it's something else?
That's a good question. I wasn't sure what that was. And I mean, the second they had their little romantic moment there, I'm like, oh, fuck, one of them's going to die.
Yep.
One or both are going to die immediately.
Correct.
I wasn't expecting it to be her because I feel like they didn't flesh that out, what happened to her. We do know, we get the vibe that they haven't seen each other since the wedding, when they kind of just like locked eyes across that platform right before Cinta drives Tay, whatever that guy's name was, like the guy that was like, going to blackmail them. Which I'm still kind of wondering if she actually did kill him or not. And right. I'm assuming, but like they didn't flat out say it. I think it's heavily implied. So I don't know if it's something that happened in between that time, that the time period between that scene and whether reunited here, or if they are referencing what you're talking about from what happened on Ferris, which I'm still kind of fuzzy on because that was 2 years ago we watched that.
Okay, so you brought up the time jump, and that's what I want to know from you now. Like, do you feel like it's like a little disorienting that we have these like clumps of 3 episodes, and then an entire year passes, and you kind of feel like, oh, they need to fill in, like we need like a little bit more like transition stuff between the time jumps. Do you feel that way, or do you not feel that way?
I don't feel that way, actually. I think they've been doing a good job here. I think it shows, although they didn't give any indication that this was like 3 BBY this time. Did they? Did I miss that?
It says it in the very beginning. When the episode starts of the first one, it goes 1 year later, 3 BBY. It does that in the first episode.
Wow. I completely missed that. No, it doesn't bother me. I do believe that there wouldn't be like constant action, like, like 24, like
right.
That was the most unrealistic thing about it in a way, is that there was so much happening in that such a short period of time.
Right.
On one hand, it was interesting. On the other hand, it's like there would be lulls, So I don't mind the time jumps. I think it gives them an opportunity to set up other little, these little other arcs for the characters to go through as we get there.
But okay. That's the thing. That's I think the difference between modern, at least modern genre television, and even genre television from like 10 years ago, is that I don't think that, at least in a handful of these shows, especially the shows that we love, they're not sitting there saying, how can we have action in this episode? How can we have some kind of set piece? It's all about like, what happens to these characters? How can we have these kind of dramatic moments for these characters?
Yeah, that's exactly what I feel is going on with this show. Yeah. And yet,
that's good.
and yet the fact that they actually are building sets and so much of it is practical effects is fantastic. And it makes everything feel so much bigger than it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Like we want to focus on pairings and stuff, so let's keep going with Cinta and stuff. But that you bring up a point I want to discuss. There's this one scene where it's Mon Mothma and her husband in a car going through Coruscant, and the first shot is the reflection of the car in a building. Then it's them in the car, and the camera's kind of going like outside of the car into the car. Then eventually the car turns and like goes down into Coruscant some more, and it's like very evocative of Episode 2. And it's like, okay, we're on Coruscant. This show, I know that the budget for this show has been like ridiculous, but it is like so lived in, and you really feel like you're in this fucking Star Wars world versus like it's a green screen.
Yeah, no, this is this gives the best example of what life is actually like in the Star Wars universe.
Exactly. So let's knock out the Cinta storyline for these 3 episodes. So basically, everything's about Gorman in these 3 episodes. Now, I could have sworn they mentioned the Gorman front in the first season, right? Isn't that one of the factions they mentioned?
I don't think it was mentioned in the first season. I don't remember, but I noticed today on Disney Plus that there actually is a season 1 recap little featurette that I think I'm going to try and watch next before the next episodes. Maybe fill in some of the gaps that I have on that first season.
Yeah,
I don't remember hearing Gorman before, but the first maybe they mentioned it in passing, but it sounds like there couldn't have been a full-on rebellion there yet, because I mean we're seeing the infant stages here and right now.
Okay. Well, so that's a good bridge into this part of the show. So what's really interesting about this, and this goes back to your original question, is they mention Tarkin a lot when they talk about Gorman. They say that basically Tarkin
it's funny is them mentioning Tarkin so much is what made me think of that question.
Okay, perfect. So what's really interesting about Tarkin, right, is that I don't think Tarkin is mentioned in any, like he's not mentioned Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi, and then he's just in A New Hope. They show him a little bit in the end of Revenge of the Sith, and then I know that he's in like the Clone Wars, and I think he's in Rebels probably too. Tarkin is a really interesting, scary character in Star Wars in general. Like, have you seen him in other stuff besides A New Hope?
I probably only really remember him from that and that one scene from Rogue One, really.
Oh yes, yeah. Okay. So I don't want to like talk too much or hog this, but like what's interesting about Tarkin in like the comics, because they feature Tarkin in the comics. There's even like a fucking one-shot Tarkin issue that I read one time. Nice. Is that they just show how ruthless he is, right? And he does some kind of thing with his cadets where he like has them go into a jungle and like hunt some kind of crazy beast that can easily kill people. And he's got his shirt off. You got like this like Peter Cushing running around in the jungle with his shirt off and like a knife, like hunting stuff. Yeah.
That sounds so awesome, actually. I was going to say that he's the most evil because he seems the most British.
Well, there you go. Yes, the more British they are, the more evil. But like what he does, it's such a I love it because it's so like on brand for the character. It's like they're going to land a ship and people aren't clearing out of the way out of protest. And he's just like, just crush them, just crush the people, right?
Christ, that sounds like that actually sounds interesting to read.
No, dude, that's what happened on the show.
Oh, on the show? Wait.
That's that. Yeah. Come on, like that. There's a memorial, and there's people protesting at this memorial. Cassian asks this one bellhop about it.
Yes, you're right. I'm so sorry. You're right. Yes, you're right. I remember now.
Yeah. Because it's just basically like they were protesting the Imperials then, and he just lands a fucking ship. Because what happens is more and more people gather, and then they just crush all the people at the ship. I think it's so fucked up.
Yeah. It was really messed up, yeah.
It's British of him.
Yes, it's very British of him. So we were talking about the angle of Vel and Cinta and there. what I found most interesting about this is that initially Luthen sends in Cassian to evaluate the potency of this this growing rebel insurgency on Gorman.
Right.
It's also very interesting that we're seeing the other side, the Empire side of this, where they're inciting them so they can use them as a scapegoat, which is great. I really enjoyed where you're first seeing the scenes with Cyril, and like you're questioning, like, is this part of the plan, isn't it? Or is this really happening? But it was, obviously part of the plan. But I love that Cassian comes in there and he's like, he evaluates him and is like, you guys are too green, too eager, and like, what are you actually going to do? And then, Luthen kind of lets him go, I guess. But he then sends Vel and Cinta in there to help kind of like run the rebellion there. And I love that they made they seemed like they had them kind of whipped into shape in a way. They seemed like they had everybody on board. And that line about we're the only ones that are going to have guns. And I'm like, oh, that's how one of them's going to die, isn't it? Somebody's going to have a gun. And it was one of these youthful, inexperienced guys that wants to be a hero. And I don't even understand what happened there, because like it was like one of those guys from the meeting, from the meeting they had, the underground meeting that Cyril attends. He was on the podium there, and then he's just like walking in the street, and then like. I understand why he's trying to get him out of the way, but like isn't he with them?
I know, yeah. That was kind of confusing.
He carries out her body afterwards, like that guy. So I'm like,
right.
What happened?
Right. I was just about to say that too. Well, okay, so let's address that situation, right? The people on Gorman, like we keep talking about how the Imperials are British, right? Gorman, it's like they're all just French, right?
Yes, they're French, yeah.
Like it almost sounds like they're talking French, but they can't be because it's Star Wars, right? They'd be talking some other thing. Gormanese, space French, right. And it's just so funny because you get so many scenes where people kind of talk down about Gorman, whether it's like people on Coruscant or like Cyril's mother or something. They're like, oh, the Gorman. So it's like, are they saying this about French people? And that dude that you're talking about, he looks like super French. He looks like he just came out of like World War II France.
Yeah, with the hat and everything.
Yeah. So I felt the same way. I'm like, why is he? I guess he was opposed to them doing some kind of rebellious act, and so he knew they were in the middle of it. I think that was what was going on there, right?
I thought he was. I thought that guy. Oh, you're talking about the guy with the beard. That looks very.
Yes.
Okay. I thought the guy with the hat looked very French too. But you're right. Everybody looks French here. So,
right.
I didn't think he was opposed to him. I thought he was just walking in the street, and he was just like trying to, not get him involved and implicated, sort of, And then he just tried to push him away. He's like, I don't listen to you. I'm a big tough French guy,
I think what happened was that like Cyril attended a meeting where the people were discussing what they should do, and I think that guy with the beard was like, you shouldn't do anything because it's going to cause problems.
Okay, so maybe I didn't pick up on that. I was a little confused in that scene about who was talking and what they were speaking about. So that does sort of make sense.
Well, it's a show that it's very easy to get confused because they don't hold your hand. They don't sit there and be like, these people are with these people. This is why they're doing this. Like even when it came to Cyril and him spying on them, I was like, wait, what does he know? Because they're implying that he doesn't know their full plan. So I'm thinking that Cyril, it's like he thinks he's gonna bust these insurgency people, and that's it. Like it's not like they want the insurgency to happen. Like I think he thinks.
Cyril does not think they want the insurgency to happen. I agree with that. Yeah.
Right. And essentially, like all the ISB people besides Dedra and the guy from Game of Thrones, they're not even aware that the Empire wants there to be an insurgency.
It's only the people in that room from the previous arc. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, like what's really interesting about this whole part of the show is the Empire has been shown as like, well, the Empire is so powerful. What can you do? But in this part of the season, it's kind of like, oh, the Empire maybe could get the good guys. Like the Empire is maybe a couple of steps ahead of the good guys, and the good guys don't know it.
Yeah, that's exactly what's going on here. Is with the whole insurgency thing. They're just trying to get any reason to take over Gorman and get those resources they need. So, and then they're trying to use the rebellion in their favor.
Right. So bringing it back once again to your really excellent question, like the way that you see planets in Star Wars in the original trilogy and a lot of other stuff, sequels, prequels, whatever, is that you'll have like stormtroopers everywhere. There's like, oh, the Empire's here, stormtroopers are there. In this show, what's interesting is that there's always kind of like this first layer of security that kind of works for the Empire, but it's not stormtroopers. And then if things escalate, then the stormtroopers come in. That's what happened in the first season.
Which makes them stormtroopers seem like an actual threat, which is something you don't really think of.
Right.
Outside of the show.
Right. They're goofy and stuff. Like, remember when we were covering the first season of the show and like one fucking TIE fighter flies over where they're preparing the heist? And it was like really scary to hear a TIE fighter.
It was like, get fucking down.
Right. So, I mean, that's what the show is. I just fucking love the show. Like, I know I've mentioned this before, but like, you haven't read Queen and Country by Greg Rucka, right?
I have not.
Okay. Well, it's like, you know, the British version of the CIA, like MI6 or whatever. And it's Greg Rucka writing it. It's very realistic. It's like the show Homeland. And I feel like Andor is like the Star Wars equivalent of that. Because like
I could see the comparison between this show and Homeland.
Right. And Homeland has this a little bit, but Queen and Country did it way better. And I know that Tom King, a comic book writer who was in the CIA, like his whole thing is that everything's much more practical and boring in real life. Whereas when they have the CIA in movies and stuff, it's like Jason Bourne with like action sequence or 24 and stuff like that, you know. Yeah. But Andor is more in line of like it's boring, it's complicated, you're waiting for things, but it's also deadly serious.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So let's see. What else should we talk about with Cinta? And so, is there more to talk about with that?
No, that's kind of it because you know her death. She gets killed by that stray laser blast, and then you know Veldis unleashes the fury on that guy.
And another great fucking scene, because I feel like this show. One of the things I always see on YouTube and stuff is the scene where Stellan Skarsgård is doing his little monologue from the first season.
Yep.
Right. I feel like they're like, okay, well, what's the next scene like that? I felt like that scene with her talking to the guy in the transport was like that scene.
Yeah. Yeah, that was really
I think that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you go.
No, I think that there's at least one scene like that with Stellan Skarsgård too in this 3 episodes too, where he's talking to Andor about Bix.
Yes. I also the scene where he's speaking to Clea.
That's his secretary girl or whatever.
Lady that I think oddly looks like a young Carrie Fisher.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's the scene where he's kind of like arguing with her, like, you got us in this mess with this whole the tracking, the listening device on in Skulden's what do you even call it? Like
a gallery?
Gallery, yeah. On one of his gallery pieces that he's getting them reappraised because something was fake. They had to go remove the thing there. So when she realizes that and tells him, he's like, you put us all this risk, and what has it actually gotten us? What is it doing? What has it done for us? Except get us into the mess. And now you're risking everything because everything's on the line because of this thing.
Yeah.
I think that was a really good little scene there too. I loved, although it's not as powerful as from the first season, I can believe that the Imperial officer Lonnie that goes down the elevator and meets Luthen, where he gives that great speech. That scene sort of happened again, but it wasn't as impactful as that, but it was still really good.
Right. And there's a musical cue that's in that first season where it just kind of sounds like one note. It's like, it's kind of like a Hans Zimmer kind of note, like, and they use that a couple of times in these 3 episodes, and they use it in that sequence with the Lonnie guy. So it's like, oh, that's the Luthen noise, and I got so excited with that. And in the first season too, there's another great scene with Forrest Whitaker talking to Stellan Skarsgård, and then you have Forrest Whitaker in this batch of episodes. He's in the second one, and I was kind of confused with his stuff in this episode but I fucking loved it though too.
Okay, so yeah, I first watched. So he's in the very end of the fourth episode, and he's mostly in the fifth episode, not in the sixth at all. So I
Right.
had to completely rewatch every scene that had happened with Willman and Saw Gerrera, because I had no idea what the hell happened.
Right. And I still don't.
But no, when I did, I was like, oh man, this is fucking awesome. So it's essentially really what it was is that Saw Gerrera is this radical element of the rebellion that's more like guerrilla warfare,
Right.
And he is basically radicalized Willman to that cause there. There are a bunch of references dropped to his appearances in the Clone Wars cartoon, like you mentioned, being like an Andor rebel, and I think one of the most interesting things was his whole obsession with that fuel. It's like, it sounds like a fucking Pokemon. It's like Rhydinus or something. I don't remember.
Yeah.
The fumes, and it's just like you're starting to connect the dots between, like, oh, this is why he can't fucking breathe in Rogue One. He has that breathing device because he's huffing paint exhaust fumes.
Yes.
But that whole speech he gives there, and then that just seems to just inspire Willman in a certain way was really good too.
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, okay. So what is that though? Were they making a bomb or were they making like a chemical weapon?
They're siphoning fuel from an Imperial pipeline, and he's just like huffs the fumes because he essentially had to do that when he was like slave labor when he was younger.
Okay. So the guy that's with Willman, who's like training him, he's training him how to siphon the stuff.
Yeah, so his job was just to deliver the thing and show them how to use it. But it's somewhere along the way, Saw figures out that guy, his name is like Plinto or Pluto, some those of the P. Plinko, I don't fucking know.
Plinko, yes.
It was a Star Wars name. It sounds absurd. I don't understand how he figured out he was giving them away. I mean, I guess you could argue that he was asking a lot of questions and he wasn't giving them the information until the end, and that's why. But like, I don't think they showed you how he figured it out. So when he got shot in the head, I'm like, what?
Right. Well, because that guy Plinko, we'll call him, he was basically implying that Willman couldn't do the job. Like he was kind of a risk, right?
No, Saw was saying he was a risk because he's seen too much. So Saw actually wanted to kill him, and Plinko was advocating to keep him alive. So that's why I don't understand at what point Saw realized that this guy was a spy there. Right. And even if maybe he even wasn't, and that Tubes guy planted that device on him after he killed him. I mean, I don't know, but yeah, like Saw was the one that wanted to kill Willman, and the other guy didn't. So it's interesting that he's now like stuck in a situation where he's the only person that can activate this fuel siphon, and then he's just like breathing in this fucking like acidic fumes that clearly is not good for you.
No. It's such interesting stuff, and it's funny because like the show is so dense and complicated and drawn out and serious that I can understand where like Star Wars fans that love the action and the fantasy are going to be turned off. Yet there are some like amazing shots that are so exciting in this show. Like when they're setting up the fuel extraction, there's just like all of Saul's team just standing on like a cliff and they're like looking at the refinery or whatever on the ground. It's such an awesome shot because you have all these different aliens and they have guns. And I love the way that guy Tubes looks too. I think it looks so cool.
It's also really funny that they're all probably standing up so far away because how fucking dangerous this shit is. It's all like, let me like,
right. Just the fact that they have Ben Mendelsohn, Forrest Whitaker, Stellan Skarsgård on this cast, and they had it already from Rogue One.
Every time I think of, I hear Stellan Skarsgård's name spoken aloud, I think to one of my favorite podcasts, How Did This Get Made? They call him Stellar Skateboard.
There you go. There you go. Well, let's hop on that Stellar Skateboard for a second because I wanted to just talk about that scene where they're trying to take the device off of that piece of art, right? So you keep cutting. These episodes were building up to this sort of like sequence where there's three different scenes going on at once, right? And one of them is Luthen's assistant trying to take that device off. She's talking to the Imperial guy, and she's like telling him what to do. She's turning this like knob to basically take it off the piece of art, and like her hand is bleeding at one point, right?
Yeah, she's pulling that hard that there's blood coming out of her hand. Yeah, I mean, it just shows that how life and death. If they discover that listening device, it ruins everything.
Yes. And so like it's so intense, and all it is literally a woman just trying to take a device off a piece of art. But you're like, oh, like it was like the most stressful thing of these 3 episodes.
Yeah, no, I mean they're standing in a room with barely anybody in it, and like Mon Moth was there, and Krennic's there, and it was Partagas there. Yeah, like all these Imperial dudes are there, and like Mon Moth was just like you piece of shit.
Yeah. There's all that kind of verbal sparring between them. And I was just eating it up. And you got to see this stuff where like Krennic was talking about this one campaign, and Mon Moth is explaining this is the way the Empire saw it. This is the way other people might have seen it. Great stuff. And it's just background stuff to what's happening in the foreground.
Yeah. Another one of my favorite scenes here. So let's pivot to Mon Mothma, I guess, for a little bit.
Yeah.
Where she's there's 2 scenes that tied together that very much impacted me with current world politics.
Okay.
So firstly, there was the scene where it was that Imperial meeting where they're all in that circle room, and they're just basically talking about like, we're arresting so many people, we don't have anywhere to put them.
Right.
And it's just like, and that I'm like, oh God, they're rounding people up, throwing them in prisons, and they're doing so many things at once to overwhelm you. And I'm like, oh fuck, that's real life.
Yep.
You can't stop it. It's just that principle of authoritarianism and fascism. It's just like that's the Empire is what is our government right now.
Yep. We are the Empire.
And then that couple that with the scenes where there's just some cutaways with Mon Mothma talking to various other representatives. And then they're like, I can't vote with you. I'm too afraid of the pressure here. Like people are getting like they're throwing people in jail and shit, and I can't have to deal with that kind of pressure. And then ultimately, it all ends with but it comes around full circle with I guess Mon Mothma was reelected or something like that, and they're in the Imperial Senate giving this oath, and she's just like everyone's mouthing these words of this oath to the Empire, and she's just stops and stares like, oh fuck, man. I loved all these scenes there, but it greatly depressed me on how accurate, again, something we're covering, how accurate it is to real life right now.
Yep. And it's funny. It's like the Emperor has a new initiative. It's called Doge. I was just picturing that guy from Game of Thrones saying that. But let's talk about Andor for a second, because he's the name of the fucking show, and I feel like his stuff is not as interesting as everyone else's stuff, but he's still the main character.
Honestly, I don't think the show should be called Andor. Honestly,
right.
He is great. I really enjoy the character and his storyline here, but this feels like a true ensemble. Like no one feels central to me in this, despite the name of the show.
Right.
So
it should be called maybe like Star Wars Rebellion or something.
Yeah, but I guess that's ambiguous to the time period, because there's always like a rebellion.
Yeah.
Like I feel like you say Andor's like, okay, this has to be something that happened right before Rogue One. Like it helps key in on the time period of the show, because obviously they have shit going on in every fucking era all the time. Right.
Well, so what I really loved about the stuff with Andor, though, was that you have the scene with him and Luthen talking, and Luthen is basically saying like, you were working really well by yourself. Bix is kind of starting to be an issue, and there's this idea of like Bix being some kind of like problem, you know?
Yeah, she's clearly suffering from PTSD. She wakes up and she sees Dr. Gorst, and she
Yeah.
walks around with the gun and almost shoots thin air. She's taking drugs just to sleep, I guess. I don't know what else that those droppers do, but that's what she says it's for sleep. Who knows what else it does? Maybe it's just kind of dulling her senses in a way.
Right.
I also thought, to bring this full circle here, is that Luthen is sending Cassian to Andor off on a mission on his own, and leaving her behind. And they in the scene with Vel and Cinta, they said that Luthen values them separately more than together. So I thought that was an interesting to see him, Luthen, come in, kind of evaluate Bix to see what her state is.
Right.
Because she said, like, oh, I might have had this weapon appraisal thing for you or something like that. But he sees that she's all like drugged out and walks away. I found that to be a very interesting parallel, and I'm wondering if we're going to see something similar to what happens with Vel and Cinta with Cassian and Bix. Like, obviously Cassian's going to get to the end of the show, but as we said before, the only people from this that we've seen in the show that appear in Rogue One are Andor, Mon Mothma, and Saw Gerrera. So anything could happen to anybody else in this show.
Right, exactly. I mean, I think Luthen is going away by the end of the show, and I definitely think Bix is going to go away because I think he maybe even kisses, or at least he hugs, whatever her fucking name is in Rogue One, the one that Felicity Jones plays.
Yeah. Jyn Erso,
Jyn Erso, yeah.
So I'm realizing we're going real long on this here, but so we'll wrap this up here. Cassian goes undercover to Gorman. It's interesting that he's arriving at Gorman while Cyril is going to Coruscant, where he was the trading places there. Would have been very interesting to see. Right. I imagine at some point he's going to realize that the Gorman people are trying to get information from Cyril because he gave his real name. So that's going to be a gotcha moment at some point later on. And then the last scene we see with them is with Bix kind of just straight up murdering. She puts the torture device on Dr. Gore's head, and then they blow up the thing. And it was a really awesome fucking blow up the building and watch it explode behind you scene.
Yeah.
And it was a fantastic way to end the episode. And then the other, we didn't really talk about Dedra and Cyril a lot, but really, I just want to comment that just when he gets there, how business-like, they're turn the lights off.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's one of the highlights of the show is those two, just the two of them together. You never think that they're together for years at this point and a couple,
But I was entertained.
Yeah. Great fucking stuff. And we got so much more to cover next week. I actually got to get going, but it's always a pleasure talking about this show. If you guys like watching me and Brian talk about Andor, make sure you subscribe to Comic Books Transformed. And we'll see where this goes next week, 1 year later. See y'all. All right.